Sacred Harmony, we step into a story of courage, resilience, and rediscovery. Our guest, Amanda J. Scott, is an author and kinesiologist whose book, Finding My Way Back to Me, traces her 17-year journey through an abusive marriage and the spiritual awakening that set her free. From the healing power of nature to the strength of music and community, Amanda's path shows us how spirituality can transform pain into liberation. Welcome to the show, Amanda. It's such an honor to have you.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Anya, for having me here today on Sacred Harmony. Hello and hello to all the listeners.
So, Amanda, when you reflect on those years, what role did spirituality and nature play in helping you endure and eventually break free?
Yes, well, it helped me. I had experienced domestic abuse in a marriage for 17 years. Yet, for the longest time, I didn't realize that what I was living with was abuse. Abuse takes many forms and it's often hidden, whether it's emotional, financial, physical, or sexual abuse. And it creates feelings of shame in the abused that keep them stuck. Nobody wants to feel unloved and uncared for. And so we make excuses for our partner's behavior rather than accept the truth that we're being abused. I decided to share my lived experience to help shine more light on this issue, because my story, I hope that my greatest wish is that my story can bring awareness and support to people that are still living in an abusive situation.
Absolutely. And was there a single moment when you knew you couldn't stay in that marriage any longer?
Well, I just think it came to a point where I realized I couldn't take it anymore, that I was worthy of being treated with respect, and I wanted a better life for myself and my children. I wanted the freedom to be me.
Yeah, and that turning point feels like the spark of reclaiming your life, not just surviving it.
No, that's right. And it's really, the most powerful and a step a woman can take is by acknowledging and admitting that she is in an abusive relationship. It might sound strange or simple for somebody on the out, but when you're actually living in it is one of the hardest truths to face, because we make excuses. We normalize the behavior. We tell ourselves it's not that bad, especially if there's no bruises or broken bones to prove the pain. But as I said, abuse wears many masks. And it's not always loud and violent. Emotional and financial abuse erodes your soul over time. And in some cases, the quiet abuse, the invisible abuse, can be the hardest to name and heal.
Definitely.
Mm.
And you became a kinesiologist out of this journey. How did your personal healing shape the way you now guide others?
Well, I think in the 2 years it took me to extract myself from the marriage and find my way back to being me. There definitely is things that I know now that would have helped me when I was going through the process, so without the stress and the heartache. And some things I really talk to people about is that one thing is that listen to your gut feelings. And I think that's very important. And don't talk yourself out of your own intuition to avoid making the hard decisions that will move your life forward. I mean, was a very important thing. And also is maintain strong friendships, as these are the backbone to your path forward. It's important to have support as you're going through this process, and don't tell yourself that you'll stay for the children, because what happens then is what we teach ourselves in that situation, and we teach our children in that situation, is that love equals abuse. And one of my primary motivations for leaving the marriage was to show my children the importance of self-respect. So I share these different things to help women. And, you know, the hardest thing is admitting it and acknowledging it. But once you've acknowledged it, that is the beginning. That is the start when your healing begins. And you might not have all the answers, and you might not be ready to take the next step. But by simply admitting it, it cracks open the door to freedom. And that's when when you begin the journey back to you.
Yes, totally. And do you find people often underestimate the lasting impact abuse has on self-esteem and self-worth?
Yes, I think so. I think that some women think it's normal for disrespect in a relationship, but it's not. A healthy relationship is a place of safety, love, respect, and mutual growth. But you see, when abuse is present, whether it's emotional, financial, physical, it strips away at those foundations, and it leaves you living in survival, not in love. But without a healthy love, our health suffers. And I think it's important to know what is in a healthy relationship. There is freedom. You speak your truth. You can make mistakes, and you can set boundaries and still be loved. And respect is not negotiable. It is the baseline. But in an abusive relationship, the control replaces the respect. And instead of the safety, you feel fear. Instead of growing, you shrink and you second guess yourself. You walk on eggshells. You abandon your own needs to keep the peace. So this is what it looks like. And I think it's good to remind ourselves a healthy relationship is possible, and it is important, I think, in your life, because how, you live with a healthy lifestyle, a happy, healthy lifestyle. And a marriage is important. So really the turning point came by admitting it wasn't love. So until we can name it, you can't change it. So recognizing and acknowledging what the signs of abuse are is the first step to break the cycle.
Yes, and it's powerful that your work is not just theory, it's lived experience guiding practice.
Yes, definitely. Definitely. Yes, because it took me 17 years and I didn't realize. But no matter how far you've drifted from yourself, it's never too late to come home. And this is what happens in an abusive relationship. You lose yourself.
Absolutely.
And everybody deserves kindness and respect.
And you have spoken about realizing you had become the woman in chains. What did it mean for you to declare that you would no longer live that identity?
How did it feel?
Yeah, how did it feel to declare, like, when you realized that you had become the woman in chains? What did it mean for you to declare that you would no longer live that identity?
It felt liberating. I felt free. I felt amazing because I could make my own decisions and I could see friends. So my whole life totally changed. I was free to do the things that I wanted to do. If I wanted to walk in a park, I could. I felt comfortable. I didn't have to walk on eggshells. I could go to, and that's really important. And the first step really is, once you've acknowledged it and admitted it, is, um, is really about making your own needs a priority. And for me, and sometimes this might feel strange for some people and foreign or selfish in a way, but it's not. It's sacred. For me, I found it was important that I had space to breathe, because you often abandon your needs when you're in an abusive relationship. So I needed that space, and I found that space in nature and in the park, where I was away from the chaos in my life, where it was quiet, where I could, amongst the trees and the stillness and the birds, where I could actually process my emotions without being interrupted, without being in that chaos, in the chaos. And in these moments, and I sort of just made sense of how I was feeling, what I had tolerated, and who I had lost in the process. And I then started to reconnect with myself, back to myself. And I think that's an important thing. And I think once you say enough is enough and you move on, then you naturally start to look after yourself and put yourself first, because you need that care, you need that attention, you need that kindness and the respect for yourself. So I think with that, yes, it is important. It felt free. I felt free to be who I was because I'd lost myself completely. But the situation I was in really had nothing to do with my behavior, what I did or what I didn't do. It was simply because my husband was a deeply insecure man that needed absolute control. And because of my lack of self-worth, I chose to accept it rather than question that.
Yes, 100%. I was just asking that how can listeners recognize when they're unconsciously living a story that no longer serves them?
Well, the truth is that you do not need anyone else's permission to call it abuse. If it feels wrong, if you feel small, trapped, afraid, silenced, or constantly questioning your worth, that is enough. You don't have to wait until it gets worse. Your feelings are valid and your pain is real. I think, you are worthy of more than surviving. You are worthy of peace, of safety, of being heard, and of being loved in a way that doesn't cost you your soul. You don't have to have it all figured out. You just need to start. Yeah. And it's about making a decision. Make a decision that you deserve a better life, and then do whatever it takes to make that happen. And that means finding the part of you that still has dreams for a good life and wants to leave more than you want to stay. Because nothing um, about moving beyond an abusive relationship is easy. But each time your mind falters, tell yourself that you deserve more and keep going. And that's why I think maintaining friendships you only need one friend who is there to help you, listen to you without judgment, and just to give you a different perspective and support in finding solutions to your abusive situation.
Yes, and that awareness is such a breakthrough. Narratives can either imprison or liberate us.
That's right, it is. It is. Yes, once you've said it's enough, it's not the end. It is the beginning. And I promise you, there is life beyond the pain. There is joy, there is clarity, and there is peace. And you're not going to do it by yourself. There are people like me that are here that have walked that path. And we are here to help you too. And that's what I want people to know as well. There is support out there, whether there's a counselor, and they're all ready to hold space for your healing, whether it's a counselor, a support group. Yeah, you're not by yourself. And that's very important to know.
Definitely. And in your book, Finding My Way Back to Me, you share such personal details. What was the hardest part of writing it, and What healing came through the process?
Yes, it was hard. It was raw and it was heavy at times. But then as I'm writing it, I'm healing. It was also uplifting, um, and brought me a lot of strength writing it, because you go through these emotions, and it's really important to process them yourself. Yes. Yes, they're there, and not to hide them or suppress your emotions. It's really important to start to express it. And writing, of course, is one way of doing that. But with the book, there are 43 pivotal days it took me to sort of get myself out of that marriage. And these were the days when I was pushed to my limits and forced to make decisions to create a different life.
Yeah, makes sense. And have readers shared with you how your story has helped them face their own?
Yes, that's why it's so important for others to share your stories, because it helps others go on their path and help them and know that it's possible and know that they can do it. When they see someone else actually get through, then it gives them the strength to do it too. And 70% of women stay in an abusive relationship. That's quite a high number. But that's why it's really important to bring out the hidden. Because when we imagine domestic abuse, we often think of the physical violence, but it's really important to, bring out that it's not just the physical violence. There's also an insidious form of control. And it destroys lives in silence. And often it strips away at who you are, your security, and even your ability to escape the situation.
That ripple effect shows how one person's courage can become another's lifeline.
Absolutely, yes. And that's why it's important to share the stories and to help others. Because once I found my way back to me, I couldn't keep that to myself. Because every woman deserves to feel comfortable in her own skin, to trust her own voice, and to live life like it feels like hers, not lived shaped in violence and fear and control. No, it's important for a woman to live the life that she wants to live.
Definitely. So, Amanda's story reminds us that even in the deepest pain, there are pathways back to freedom, worth, and self trust. Abuse does not define who you are, it is an experience you can rise beyond. If her words resonated, take them as an invitation to reconnect with your inner strength and know that you, too, can find your way back to yourself. So, until next time, may you keep walking gently towards the heart.